welcome to Fun&gun. Got something absolutely awesome for you on the table today. Not gonna lie, I've been messing with this since early January of this year and kind of kept it hidden off camera. We'll get to more why that is later in the video here. Before we get too far here, I want to go ahead and say a big thanks to Sealy Optics for bringing me on as an affiliate of their brand. If you're looking for a good red dot sight, it's not going to break the bank, you can go ahead and use the link in the description below there to open up their website, and then use code FunNGun at checkout to get 10% off nearly everything on the website. It also helps out the channel a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and say up front that no, this is not a Sealy product on this gun. I had this gun well before YouTube, and it's been set up this way ever since I got it, so that is why that's on there. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right here. And what we have for you today is going to be a chain revolver kit from Custom Munitions. I want to go ahead and say a big thanks to my friend Hunter for letting me be a part of the R&D process of this particular kit. Now, when I say friend, I've never met Hunter. Just kind of feel like we're friends now since we've talked about this particular setup and just gun stuff in general on the phone so much now over the last so many months here. So I do consider him a friend now. And what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of go ahead and nerd out on how this particular kit works with this gun. And we'll go over some of the R&D and different stuff that we have kind of worked through together. Just different ideas. Now, what I will say, I had no part in the engineering of this. That was all Hunter. I ain't that kind of smart, but I did have some good ideas here that kind of helped this get to moving, as we'll go over in a second. But what this is a conversion kit for a Heritage Rough Rider revolver. And he does have intent on coming out this for the Ruger Wrangler at some point as well. And then possibly some larger calibers over time, but right now we're messing with the Rough Rider variation of it. And I will say that some of the reason this took so long is because there was some stuff that needed to be worked out, as you will see here. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and set the gun out of the way. We'll go ahead and set the newer generation of the chain out of the way, and we're going to go ahead and bring in the first chains that I got. Now these are kind of the 1.5 gen chains, because before I started messing with it, he did have a different version of the linking system here to lock the chain together that did not fit through the cylinder. So this was one of the first changes. So that's why I'm going to consider this the 1.5, and the one would be the one that had the older style linking mechanism on it. And we're going to go ahead and get into some of the issues that I initially ran into this when we were doing the R&D on this kind of deal. And as you can see here, one of the main issues is obviously the rope that was holding this together did not hold up and was starting to blow apart from the blast from the cylinder. And that wasn't the main issue, and not the main issue. We went to the actual cable that you've seen there on the other chain, as we'll get to in a second. But it's definitely a good reason that we did, or a good idea that we went away from the rope here, because as you can see, that rope is blowing apart. But I'm going to go ahead and put the one that I did the most testing with here that's blowing all apart here off of the side. And we'll go ahead and talk about the one that's in better shape here. And I kind of went ahead and kind of just for my own collectible purposes left this one in good shape, and kind of for this video as well, so I could talk about it and just show you some of the issues here. So this is how this one links together. You have these two 3D printed parts, and they do just slide together. There wasn't nothing wrong with that. They would feed through the cylinder just fine. Now the issue that was kind of arising with this one was mainly the fact that there was no good way to hook the metal links onto the rope itself. And as you can see here, this link right here is just free moving on the chain. And these were initially meant to be crimped on there, but when you would go ahead and crimp them, it was not enough material there to crimp down and actually hang on to the rope because of how thin the rope would get when you'd crimp it, so they'd still slide around. So the ones here, you can't hardly see it, but you can see where the rope's a little bit different color. So, excuse me, that's where they were actually glued onto the links were glued to the rope, and that was to go ahead and keep them where they're lined up with each other. And as you would expect over time, and the concussion and the fire from the cylinder is going to go ahead and break those loose. So that would run into feeding issues. And the main issue with this being a rope was the fact that you had this forward and backwards movement. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in a second cylinder here that I have. And the issue with that is let me make sure I put this in the right way, because I'll go ahead and mention it right here. As you can see on the cylinder, one side is thinner than the other, so it is keyed. So that way you can only put this in one direction. And let's see, I got it right there. And the issue you have with this is if you lean the revolver forward or in the wrong position when it's feeding forward, or feeding the cylinder or the chain through the cylinder, as you can see there, there's potential for it to bind up because, well, number one, where they're coming unglued, it doesn't keep them spaced properly, but it keeps them from being, or it allows the cylinder to be able to lean forward right there. So when it's coming up, it actually can go past the front side of the actual cylinder itself, and that's going to cause the actual gun to lock up because it's going to run into your forcing cone there. So that was initially the idea of the cable, and that was something that actually, that was my idea. Like I said, I didn't have any of the to do with the engineering of this, so I'm going to go ahead and put that cable off to the side here, or the chain off the side. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the newer generation and the ones with the cable. Now, this is what I'm going to consider the Gen 2 of the cable, and this is how they came to me initially. He didn't have a new version to connect them together, so that was just a bare ended cable there, and that was just to get the idea to see if they would cycle in the cylinder well. And still had the same issue with the crimping, and that is mainly because these links are the same ones that were on the Gen 1.5 cylinder here, or chain there, and that did not allow enough material. Also, when you would crimp it, you would end up with some of them. Let's see if I can find one of them on this one. As you can see here, they're JB welded, and that's because when you would crimp it, the material itself would crimp all the way down and lock on pretty decently, but that thin material would still break off and give you loose links, such as the one right here. So the way this is going to be fixed on the actual full production version of this gun, or this kit, is going to be thicker material right here, the cable slightly larger, and the cylinder, or the little cylinders on the chain here, links on the chain, whatever you want to call them, are actually legitimately designed to have the cable through them instead of the rope, and they're made to be crimped to that. So if you go ahead and pre-order one of these kits, I'm not sure if I mentioned this right now, but this kit should be available hopefully soon. That was one of the holdups on me making this video. I kind of wanted to wait till it was more ready to show you it more functional, and I didn't want to show it with, you know, this right here, because it's not a good way to show a product. I wanted to show it in a good functional state. Now, I will say it's still a little bit finicky. As you can see there in the intro, you'll see me reach up and flick down the chain right here, and that is because, like I said, this is kind of these all have been pre-production kind of prototypes here that I've been messing with. But this one out here actually is good enough to shoot, as you can see there in the intro. But if you go ahead right now and you head over to his site, you can actually go ahead and pre-order this currently right now, and there actually is a few spots left on the first batch of these. And the cool thing is these are actually going to be shipping hopefully mid to late July, so they're coming soon as long as everything goes to plan. So if you're interested in something like this awesome kit, I recommend going ahead and hitting up Hunter while he still has some of these available, so you can get on the first batch of them. And then there will be more batches to come after that, and I'm not 100% sure what the time span on that's going to be. He's not yet either. But let's go ahead and talk about this chain a little bit more. Now, I will say this is my doing, and that is because, like I said a second ago, these came with these bare ends on them, and then this was something else. It was kind of my idea, was magnets in each side of the linking system here, and he came up with a good idea of making them different colors so you know which side to feed through, because like I said a second ago, they are keyed. That way that when they're in there, you make sure that you're using the same side of the cylinder, because let's say you want to go ahead and insert around in this side, and it's kind of easy after you shoot it a little bit. You can tell I'm not going to press that all the way in. I don't want to fight it back out, but you can tell these sides, or this side's still clean and this side's black from being fired. But you want to make sure you're putting them into the right side, and then you got to feed the right side through the cylinder. So let's see here. Right here's your cog. So you're going to feed it in like that right there. Get it started. Pop it out on the other side. And then if you had the magnets, you're just going to go ahead and magnetize them together right there. I just put that click material on there, and that is because I actually did a stupid there. And when I put these together, I JB welded the magnets in, and they were a little bit at an angle, and they didn't click together well. So I figured, hey, I'll just sand them smooth. And well, that's when I went ahead and found out that you can't sand magnets because you lose strength of the magnet when you do that. So they wouldn't click together anymore. So I went ahead and put this material right there on there, which is that click together Velcro, and it works very well for that. But yeah, that is the current iteration of the link that connects the chain together right there. Now, I will say that the newer version of the chain is going to have a little bit longer, a larger diameter cable. And then it's also going to, like I said, have a little bit thicker walls right there where it can crimp properly. So this part right here may not end up being strong enough to hold it up, so there might end up being like a mechanical part that has to come to the magnets as well, something like a lug or something to keep it from being able to pop apart. But currently, that is the link system. Now, Like I said, this one still has an issue with the links coming loose on it, but if you can keep them JB welded in a nice straight line like this one right here still is, because I hadn't used it as much, this one right here is going to feed a lot better than this one is, because I have a lot less links on this one that are broken loose. But this one not being connected together also runs into some issues because, okay, let's see if I can explain this to you here. If you don't have the weight of the actual, let's say the weight of this part of the cylinder pulling down, or this part of the chain pulling down on the rest of your links there, it's going to allow for this cylinder, or this link right here, to stay in the cylinder and start to feed underneath, under your frame right there. So you want them connected together, and that's also going to lead to an issue when you come to the last link feeding in on this side. There's not going to be enough weight to hold it down. It's going to want to pop up and hold out of the way. So that is one reason you want this connected together, and you can't just not have it connected. Plus it looks kind of goofy. But as you can see there, the cable holds itself into a nice loop a lot better than the rope did. So that's going to allow this to feed a lot smoother. And the thicker cable is also going to help with that as well. And that also helps with the issue I was talking about a second ago, where when you hold it like this, the links would fall forward and jam up the actual cylinder setup when the round, or the actual cylinder, or the, I guess these are technically the cylinder, but the cylinders on, or the chain right here, would actually run into the forcing cone there. So this particular setup fixes a lot of the original issues that you had with this setup right here. And the fact that it's a cable means it should last you a lifetime, because you're not going to shoot enough 22, I wouldn't think, to blow through that steel cable right there. And I haven't had any problems with that cable at all. Another thing is what's cool is he's actually having a press made where he'll be able to put all the links into a jig, run the cable through it, and then press it in a press. And that's going to crimp all of them at the same time, crimp all of them equally, and space all of them properly. So you're going to end up with a perfect chain every time. So you're not going to have to deal with all the issues that me and him's been messing with trying to get this to function properly. And like I said, some of that's keeping the links in the same spot. So overall, you pick one of these setups right here up, you're going to have an absolute blast with it, in my opinion, because I mean, it just takes a cool revolver, this being the tactical rancher here, or the tactical cowboy here, I mean. And this is how this works. So you're going to go ahead and put it in right there. And I like to do this with the safety on, because you are messing with loading the gun right here, and you are going to have to pull the trigger once right there. And you're going to go ahead and cock it one more time. That's a little bit hard to do on camera. And now this side is popped out. You're going to go ahead and connect your chain together, flick it off safety, and you're going to be ready to fire there. And as you can see, that is how this particular setup works. And as long as your links stay in line with each other, it is pretty darn smooth and absolutely a blast to mess with there. And since I messed this particular setup right there up, you're going to have to go ahead and pop it apart. And then you can go ahead and cycle the rest of the chain back out, and you're going to be able to do essentially, if you buy more chains, you'll be able to just reload and keep shooting. So that's something you usually can't do with the revolver. Another cool thing is they actually timed the cylinder properly, where you can actually use the ejection rod. Now, I choose to just go ahead and use this Phillips head screwdriver, put this over on my table like so on the edge, and I'll just pop cases out using that Phillips head screwdriver. That's the way I choose to do it. And I guess that kind of covers the chain. Let's go ahead and bring the cylinder in here. I actually have a second one right here, as you seen a second ago. This one's pretty beat up because I have put a lot of rounds through this one initially with the original chain there. And the cool thing is the guns are originally a 6-shot, and this converts it to and you have 5 cogs here that the lifting bar right there is going to use to rotate the cylinder. And when you come over here to the conversion kit, you only need 5 of them, and you have 5 slots, and that is to allow for enough room for your chain to actually set down into it and to go ahead and feed. So that's pretty neat as well. And your factory cylinder is going to be made out of steel, and your kit cylinder is going to be made out of aluminum here, and as is all of your actual cylinders on the chain here, or the links, whatever you want to call them, they're all aluminum. Now you think, hey, that's a little sketch because you're firing, but it's not a big deal because the 22 caliber is such a low pressure round. There's guns I've seen that have a lot less chamber thickness or whatever you want to call it, cylinder wall thickness than this particular gun, and they work just fine. Or yeah, chamber thickness, that's what I'm going for there. So you ain't gonna have any issues with that. I've fired a lot of rounds through these. I hadn't had a single one of them have a problem. And that's also you're gonna lose a lot of weight off of the gun just by swapping the cylinder there. I guess you're gonna gain it back in ammo, but either way, it's an absolutely awesome kit. I feel like you pick one of these up, you're gonna have a lot of fun with it. I've had a lot of fun with it. I'm really looking forward to having the final area or variation of the chain, so I won't have all these issues with it. And then that will be a separate video coming at a later time. Once I get hands on that, I'm going to show myself hopefully shooting this a lot more and just kind of give you a better idea of actually how it works. So that's all I had for you today. Like I said, if you're interested in this, hit them up while you still got some available on the first batch, and I'll see you in the next one.
Okay, if you made it this far, I just want to say thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. If you're looking for more Fun and Gun right now, you can click one of the 2 recommended videos there. If you're looking for more Fun and Gun later, you can go ahead and click that there subscribe button. I sure would appreciate it. And if you're finding me from Facebook, go ahead and click that open app button at the top to make all that a lot easier, and I'll see you next time.